Hi guys, welcome to another episode of the Real Football Talk. As always, I have Adil with me. Just to start off with, really, it's sad to say the passing away of Pele, one of the greatest ever to have played the game. They call him the King. Condolence goes out to his family and friends and his relatives. Are there any thoughts on Pele? And have you seen much of him? Obviously, we've seen documentaries.
Yeah, so plenty of clips and videos of him back in the days. He it was the conversation was always the greatest being Maradona or Pele,
Pele, yeah.
and obviously recently he's moved on to Messi and Ronaldo, moving on to that platform. But yeah, but Pele was a phenomenal player. Was the first real
Superstar.
global superstar. At a time when TV came in, he was the first one to really capture the imagination.
Mm.
He really enhanced and brought that Brazilian identity that we all enjoy, and that samba, Joga Bonita
That
style.
energy, isn't it?
That whole style all started from Pele and him being one of the best players at the time and
I mean,
giving that confidence to a whole nation. So,
3 World Cups, isn't it, Adil? 3 World Cups he won.
yeah,
So
3 World Cups. But other things is like he was a pioneer too, and I
yeah,
mean, the things he was doing. If he did it in this day and age, he'll be undoubtedly the biggest name in football because he was doing movies. He understood the importance of breaking into new upcoming markets. Was one of the main stars to kick off the MLS by going there. So he done a lot of things, unconventional things.
even breaking
When he had
into
the American
Europe,
club.
even breaking into Europe with the friendlies with Santos and the
Yeah.
European teams. I mean, that was again him driving that and showing his talents across the whole of Europe, even though he was playing in the Brazilian leagues.
And that's what it is. He definitely was a pioneer in
Mm.
terms of you know he never had a sports management agency. He did everything to globalize the game and to spread it, and he took that responsibility on as an ambassador of the game before anyone else did. You got to remember in them days, globalization just as you know a an idea wasn't there.
Was
The idea
crazy
of
because
traveling
yeah,
globe trotting, was only starting to kick in. So he was really the first true one, and above everything, we're talking about his impact, but we're missing out what a technically amazing player he was. The way he used to play, the player, everything he brought. I mean, that identity we enjoy in Brazil, that was created and born by Pele and his generation of players. Every Brazilian team, every Brazilian player, he is the holy grail. He is the guy. Ultimately, they are looking to uh,
emulate.
emulate. So yeah,
I mean, top there with that. I mean, he's a generational superstar, a superstar in all generations, to be honest. And
yeah,
is a pioneer, to be honest.
yeah. He brought that professional approach to football in that era where he put a lot of emphasis on the team being fit, physically, conditioning. There's so many things that he did way beyond that. Now, you look 60, 70 years later, um, every club is doing it, but he brought that mentality and that,
mm, mm,
those type of concepts into that Brazil team way before that. And,
yeah.
you know, there's a lot of guys, there's a lot of players that were, before our time that we've heard were, Di Stefano and Puskas and all of them, but they were very much, they were made more famous by the club game, and they made more famous by the, within their own continents. Pele, was famous to
I mean, he was
World Cup,
world
the
renowned,
global
isn't it?
thing.
World renowned. It
You know,
wasn't just.
yeah,
It
but
wasn't
it brought
just.
the light onto South America. These other countries at the time that weren't global, countries. So he definitely balanced the shift between the power base of Europe and bringing it back into Latin America and other countries. So yeah, I don't think his legacy can be underestimated. Even if you look at just his character and the example he gave as a role model to every other player. I mean, he supported everyone, mentored many players
Yeah.
from different countries.
No.
He's just been a true ambassador.
No one has any words of anything bad to say about him. Every story you hear about how what a humble guy he was, and how knowledgeable of the game he was. And I mean, from his actions, obviously you can see why he was so far ahead of everybody else, because he saw the future, he saw the vision, and that's why they went on to win 3 World Cups like they did, because he was that miles ahead, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, even his story has a bit of the last dance about it.
Yeah.
With Brazil, even his story with Brazil, he's suffered failure,
Yeah.
come back in his late years, to try and win that trophy again because of the disappointment of losing the final. It's got a lot of the last dance, and you look at his story with Brazil and that third World Cup. So definitely, it's been actually quite nice to see the documentaries and the limelight, because I think when I was younger, it was always about Pele and Maradona, and Pele used to get a lot of airtime, and then in recent years, you still hear a lot about Maradona because he was controversial and the things he did and kept
Yeah.
himself relevant with spontaneous things, but Pele, because of his good nature, he didn't get as much airtime, and suddenly now it's nice to see
People
that
realize,
he's
people
being
realize,
revered
people
like he
realize how
should be.
great he was. People realize that's why he's.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Let's move on. I think that's a great tribute to him. But move on to the Premier League, where Arsenal went 7 points clear. Tottenham, for the 10th games, went behind. Ended up losing this time. Liverpool gaining grounds in the top four race, and Chelsea stuttering and didn't really pick up their forms at all from the World Cup break. But let's start with City dropping points against Everton at home. What was your reaction to the game?
Um, I actually, I actually felt it was going to be a close game because Everton's one of those teams I have down as they're a bit like Leeds. They always give the top better teams a good game. Their style and the way they like to play their football suits playing the bigger teams. So, other than I think City last season, I mean Everton actually gave all the top six good games, tough games. They got most of their points against those teams.
Big boys,
So,
yeah, yeah.
I was actually expecting it to be a tough game, but I was still expecting City to come out on top. And yeah, as everyone's seen, Everton were committed, physical, didn't respect City, and City just were off the boil. And they have been on a number of occasions this season, but Haaland has always managed to pop up, get the goals, and
Or De Bruyne,
kind of
maybe.
the narrative ends up being this City win as if it's a convincing victory, and they haven't been convincing. That's why, even as far as a few weeks ago, I was saying I still think they will drop points, and it's more down to how much Arsenal can pull away before they get nervous.
Mm.
And but yeah, and we're seeing that. We're seeing City drop points, still being unconvincing. I just think, yeah, yesterday's result had a lot to do with Pep. He's rotating the team to a level as if he has 25 players all on the same level, and he's doing changes that are just it's totally disrespectful to the opposition. I
But
think you know,
the other thing I was gonna say is
continue to think he can keep getting away with playing Nathan Ake as a
yeah.
left back, playing Lewis when Cancelo and Olvo have been in training for a few weeks.
Mm,
You got Walker there. I understand. You want to support Lewis, and he has played okay, but it's about matchups, isn't it? And
mm.
this Everton team, they're never gonna beat you through playing good football, and they're never gonna beat you through midfield battle, but they can beat you through the wings because that's where they have talent.
Yeah,
And
that's
so
what happened. Yeah.
that's how it proved to be. So I just think, yeah, it's good in the sense that maybe Guardiola's, over the top with his rotations, over the top with trying to challenge some of the settled starters, but I'm not sure if it was actually necessary
Mm.
to
But do you
try
know,
and motivate him
do
anymore.
you know what was surprising is the fact that he didn't bring on, I think, a couple of the players until what, the 80th minute, 80th, he brought on 40th, Foden on the 89th minute. Like, I'm like, what is going on? You're not
Yeah, but
bringing.
he's done that. He's
Jack
done that
Grealish
two,
wasn't
three
great.
times this season.
Yeah, and it's this
But he's done
stubbornness.
that
I don't
two, three
understand
times
it.
this season.
Yeah, I don't understand this stubbornness.
But he's done that two, three times this season when they've been losing or drawing. But the key thing, they've ended up taking the lead. So it's that stubbornness where he wants to kill the narrative of maybe he's got the lineup wrong by making sure he persists with the team and hopes that the opposition or the referee or some decision goes their way, and it's happened. The reason why he continues to not make the changes is because the other games where he's delayed and delayed and not made changes and it's coming up to the 80th minute, they've ended up taking the lead by getting a soft penalty like a De Bruyne dive or something. So, you know, it's worked. He's gotten away with it. And obviously they came up against an Everton team that did not lack the belief to
I
see it
mean,
out. And it's not like they were really under the pump
I
once
think they could have
pressed.
won it. They had a really good chance after they took the lead as well, Everton. So they could have gone and actually won the game. But I mean, great finish from Demarai Gray. He slipped just before as well to compose himself. Oof.
Yeah, but it's more the defending. I mean,
Yeah.
there's like 4 players around him, and everyone's just dropping off, dropping off, dropping off. No one wants to go close to him. So yeah, great finish, deserved equalize because they showed no respect to the City team.
Is there too much reliance on Haaland? Is that what it seems? It seems like everything is just to do with Haaland scoring rather than actually because there's not much contribution from other players.
It's like what we said, isn't it? We said before, isn't it, that they've become less creative and less of they just take it out wide and cross it ultimately. The football is as creative because they have Haaland and because they were winning. So they've actually become weaker as a team. As in, we've said it all year
Yeah.
about their pressing, their counter pressing isn't good. They don't do it like they used to. They don't. The only thing they've maintained is everyone bar Haaland trying to get back behind the ball as quickly as possible. But in terms of the press, the aggressiveness, the football, the creativity, they are weak as a team with Haaland, but they're getting more results because they finally got a score. So they'll eventually get that balance right. I think only results like this will force their hand because you can fall into the trap of it being too easy and too simple. And now
Haaland
they
didn't score. Yeah.
yeah, and it's going to give teams belief because you can see that you can get underneath Haaland's skin, and the City team
Ooh.
can get rattled.
Should he have been sent off?
No, I don't think so. I think that's not sending off. But yeah, he gave as good as he got. It's good to see that.
Oh, do you know? Do you know some of the videos? It's funny because obviously with Godfrey, he was having that fight and he's like chatting behind us. It's hilarious if you see the compilation there.
That's where it got silly because it's like that's inexperience, and he's still got to learn that winning mentality that you only chuck it when you're 2-3 goals up, when the game's still in the balance, and kind of that's what happened with City. They've had a few 1-0s, and I think they just couldn't see how Everton were going to score, and they kind of took their eye off the ball.
To me, he doesn't
the usual intensity.
He doesn't seem that sharp. I don't know. He's missed quite a few chances recently where he's getting under his feet. He's not really pushing the ball out, or he's rushing it. Because before the World Cup, he's getting that out of his feet and it's bang. It's instant. It's in. But the last couple of games, it just seems like that touch is going away from him, or that sharpness isn't there.
Yeah, I mean, I just think Pep very much builds his players' fitness up. He doesn't do, and the thing is, it's all right at the start of the season because you always start off with 1 game a week.
Yeah.
So that slow build up works. But here you're straight away going into 2-3 games a week. So maybe he needed to put a bit more fitness into them to make them a bit more sharper. But because of that approach, they always end strong, and they always. So again, you'll expect to come back from them, but I just think there's too much messing around with that back line, and I'm glad they kind of got punished.
Yeah, this January just looks deadly for them, Matthew. They got Chelsea away, United away, Tottenham at home, Wolves at home, and then Tottenham away.
And that might played a part in him fielding a slightly alternative lineup, because obviously he wants to have his starters of playing more available and fresh for those big games.
Those big games, yeah.
So it's not the end of the world, but they've lost and they've drawn their last 2 home games against teams that are in the bottom half.
They can go and beat all of those teams. You know how City are. They are one of those teams. So,
but yeah, I mean, it's good for the league because it felt like quite a few teams were so fearful of Haaland that they weren't even having a go. And if you look at the teams that haven't backtracked and been afraid of City, they've actually all got points or nearly got points.
Yeah.
You look at Brentford were brave. You saw Everton committed. You saw Newcastle go toe-to-toe. They got a point. So it's good to see because it'll just create that belief system for other clubs to realize that, hold on, this ain't the normal City team that is infallible. This team has weaknesses.
Definitely. I mean, let's move on. I mean, Arsenal against Brighton, potentially a banana skin, but I mean, 4-2 wins, going 7 points clear. What was your reaction, Atu?
Reaction was exactly what I thought. 2 minutes in.
Oh, is that why you were gonna
2 minutes in, I was gonna text you and say, what did I tell you? Brighton at home is not the same as Brighton away. And as well as they played okay, they were playing okay. Arsenal were comfortable until the first goal, and then it suddenly got a bit nervy because of more the changes.
I think the changes is what.
I felt the subs. The changes Arteta made, he kind of switched off.
Yeah,
thinking 3-1. We've got the games here. I can rest a few players, go fixture list, and that's when the belief in Brighton grew, and it became a nervy game. But
do you know what is? But that also shows the players coming on, they need to be ready, because every single one of those players that came on did not perform. They did not step up or get up to the speed of the game at all.
Yeah, but I think also the players on the pitch kind of switched off, thinking
it's done.
Game's over. That's the main players are coming off. And that's the thing, and you have to pick who you take off. You got to leave. Like, if you take Zinchenko off and then Odegaard, then you're kind of asking for it.
Yeah.
You need to keep your leaders, your generals on the pitch, and but again, and Arsenal played some fantastic football. The football they're playing is amazing, and there's a lot to be said because at the end of the day, this time last year, everyone was on Arteta's back.
Mm.
He was under pressure. He was under a lot of pressure. He started to go into a run, but let's say October, November last year, October definitely under so much pressure, and every other day we're talking about should he be given a chance or not, and we're all kind of 50. Well, the good thing I would say is why were we 50-50 is because we knew that we had that balanced argument that there's this side where you can see what he's trying to do.
You can
and
see
if
the vision,
he pulls it off, you can see what he's trying to do. But the manager. But now you look at it, you just think, what a phenomenal transformation. You think back to he got there, won a cup, showed that. For me, I've always maintained that he's a good manager simply because he's shown that he can win and he can win against the better teams. And that's when he had the Ozils and Kolasinac, a lot of players that don't pull a shift in because the culture was bad. So, you have to give him credit. When you look at the team he inherited and the way he's transformed them, you have to give credit to the ownership. I know not Arsenal fans like Stan Kroenke and the ownership, but they have backed Arteta to a tilt under so much pressure. And obviously having Edu there who fully trusts Arteta's opinions. You saw it in the Amazon program. I mean, Arteta has the final say and everything, and they tried the backing. They disagreed with a lot of stuff. You could tell the whole Aubameyang thing, but they never undermined Arteta once, even though they disagreed with it. So you have to give credit to the whole setup, and you can see the rewards of all of that. And no one could have predicted this. No one could have predicted.
Oh, come on, man! No one could have predicted Odegaard doing the stuff that he's doing.
Hold on.
You're making me eat my words every week. I asked Odegaard to prove me wrong.
Not all of us thought he was as bad as you did. But no, you have to admit the thing is, I thought Jesus was an excellent signing. A lot of the other signings I actually wasn't sure about. So other than Thomas Partey, who I rated, which I was shocked they got, but he hadn't been performing to the level that we saw. Yeah. Now the last few weeks, he looks every inch the play. I mean, the way he's playing is very similar to the way Casemiro is playing for United. I mean, he's totally dominant on his own. In that it's literally everyone else is attacking and he's the only midfielder and he's still reading everything.
The first goal in the first minute came from a Partey tackle, him winning that tackle back and Zinchenko playing the ball to Martinelli.
Yes, it's really, really impressive, and yet you just have to, because even Zinchenko, I still don't think that's such a great signing, but it's working. Yeah. It's working. A lot of their signings, I thought they were risky. I couldn't see the vision or the understanding, but you have to give it. I mean,
but Partey,
I thought was good. I thought Gabriel was a good signing. I thought Jesus was a good sign. The rest I had question marks. I definitely didn't think Ben White was. I didn't think Tomoyasu I wasn't sure about. Even Ramsey, we had loads of discussion. But you look at it, the way he's constructed this team and the football they're playing.
If you look back, you would say the balance of argument is fair because you have to go on based on what you've seen. A lot of the information that they will have about the personality and the character of the players, we wouldn't have those because they're having those conversations. So we have to go on based on what we see on TV or in the games.
Well, I think in terms of the personality, I think
because it's about getting that group. It's about that unity within the group, isn't it?
But I think that bit you can tell, and we were able to tell. I think it's more the bit about how good those players are playing, some of them. The ceiling, no one could have predicted Saliba is going to be as classy as he. No one's going to predict the upturn in Xhaka's performances, or Odegaard, or he's getting the best out of those. Even the development of Martinelli, he's developing every player, and they are playing very well. So, the only thing, the biggest surprise for me, because with Arteta, I knew he had winning mentality. That's why I kept. I know he used to make fun of me when I used to say I still think he's a top manager. Put him up with those managers, but you can still always see he kept that winning mentality. He kept. He knew what he's doing. He knew what he wanted. He knew he's doing the clear out, changing the code. You could see all those things. The one thing I never saw last season was the good football. That he'd really let the team hands down play really good football, and now to see that's for me, that's the biggest surprise.
But Adi, there's a reason to all of that why he was doing, and you can see it's because he fully didn't have the players or the trust there. It's like the example you kind of used about the FA Cup win. The FA Cup win, he had, I think he was in a recent, he had to play that way because those are the players that he had. So for him to get that win, he had to do it that way because he didn't have the players or their understanding to do it the way he wanted to do it.
But I don't really think the football they're playing is set up by Arteta. I think the players they've signed who have that winning mentality have brought that element of, no, this is how we play all the time. I think Arteta's style is slightly more pragmatic, but he understands, because he was a player very recently, he understands it's the players that lead the way. And because his captain is a playmaker, his best players are flair players, he's going with it and he's reaping the reward, and that's excellent management.
But it helps with his pragmatism because obviously then he ups up the other way as well. So he helps both ways, I guess. It's a good
and it's an entertaining game. And like we said, we talk about Brighton. They're one of the best at creating space and attacking space, especially around the 10.
One guy after Mitoma. Oof. He looks deadly. He looks
there's
really
quite
good.
a lot of players were saying he's one of the best players that taking on a player one-on-one. I saw some stats around one of the highest in Europe in beating a man one-on-one with his dribbles. It's like comparing it to Messi's stats in beating. So that says a lot about how good he is in one-on-one dribbling. But when you actually see the way he dribbles at players and the range of the way he's turning in there now, it is like Messi, the way he moves, just the way he moves his body and that, and the little shifts and and the way he's so synced in one is very fluid and really silky player.
It's not just one way. He can go both ways, both left and right. And that's what makes him so deadly.
He's got some real nice combinations and variations of it. So yeah, definitely.
He ripped his Japan international teammate Tomiyasu to pieces.
I'm very unlucky with that second one as well.
Yeah, really the offside, from a throw. I mean that would have been really, really difficult. 4-3. I was so pleased when I saw that video. You know me, I was stressing.
Only thing going through my mind was if Brighton get to 4-4, all you're gonna do is blame Holding.
But no, I wasn't gonna just blame Holding. I was gonna blame all the that came up because they were poor.
Yeah, the KJ got too big for them.
Yeah, that's
why he took a lot of the leaders off, which is surprising.
But it shows the drop off, right? It shows the drop off between the first team and the players after that. It's just a massive drop off, and that's one of the biggest.
I'm not sure. I think a lot of those players, if they come on and you still have Odegaard and to go, the leaders on the pitch, that drop off ain't happening. But who's telling them? Because we all seen it. Odegaard tells everyone where they need to go, where they need to press. He's the guy who's keeping that intensity. He's the communicator on that pitch. Gabriel Jesus is the communicator on the pitch. Zinchenko's that communicator on the pitch. The others are just playing well. Partey doesn't shout at anyone, nor does Xhaka.
Yeah, yeah.
He'll do it in the break of play, but not while the game is going on. So, yeah, I think it was the miscalculation from Arteta, and luckily, they had enough in the tank.
Listen, it sets up for some amazing week of football, because obviously Arsenal, Man City both got some massive games coming up, with Arsenal having Newcastle, United, Tottenham, and then Man City having Chelsea, United, and Spurs as well. So it's gonna be good.
Well,
like
I said,
it's gonna be good.
It actually sets up for a bit of tactics, really. Maybe Arteta should be thinking about being a bit more pragmatic, because at the end of the day, these other clubs are under pressure.
But it'd be interesting to see. It'd be interesting to see how we go into the Man City games. Obviously, after all of this, what position we're at, how many points different, because yeah, that will play a big part.
I got a feeling they're gonna go gun ho because they're thinking they got a gap. But I would actually try to set up for a point and play on the counter, yeah, because it's for everyone else to chase.
Yeah, yeah. Let's move on. One of the chasers, United. What did you make? Another win, a 1-0 away. Had really good chances. Both it seemed like a even game, I do, but United had the more clear chances, and obviously Rashford had to come on after his discipline issue to seal the deal.
I don't think it's an even game. I think there wasn't a big difference between the two teams, but definitely when it came down to
even game in terms of play, but the set in terms of the
even in terms of play. I mean, first half, Wolves were nowhere. I mean, they came back into it a bit more in the end of the first part. United, it always felt like United were the team pushing the game, playing the creative football. Wolves are a bad team. They got internationals everywhere. When you look at the squad, you realize how a good team they have. And yeah, they're not a bad team, so they play good. They try and play, and they force you to, and they press and they play the modern style. So you're never going to totally dominate them, because they're not a team that's all at sea. They know what they're doing. They're organized. They all work hard. So yeah, but United were the team that was playing the creative football, trying to make things happen. And that first half, Wolves, I thought, struggled playing out. I'm trying to beat United's press. I thought they struggled. They got better as the game went on. And yeah, another good win, 5 wins in a row, and it's mentality, isn't it? You can just see there's a mentality of win at all costs, no matter what. And it always felt like that. Even though United were slightly the better team and never totally dominating Wolves, the Wolves were never so far behind. It always felt like United were the only team that's going to score. And it always felt like, it's that confidence is back, that it just feels like they're not panicking, they're not rushing, they know they'll get a goal. That confidence is there, that they know enough of what they're doing that they'll get them. They'll do something. And that's what winning does when you're not playing totally dominating football, but enough. So yeah,
what do you make of Rashford? I mean, obviously left out for disciplinary reasons, but this is, I think, 5 goals in 5 games now. Seems to be got his form back, mojo back, confidence back, and he should. I mean, he had a second.
He said it's the man of the goals. Yeah, unluckily as well. It's the man of the goals, though. Some of them are really good goals. I mean, Ronaldo-esque, a couple of them in terms of, running the length of the field, beating 2-3 men and finishing it off. So it's good to see that he sees himself as the go-to guy. And he's not hiding from that. He's not feeling the pressure of that.
Stepping up, yeah.
And yeah, thank God for Rashford. United do lack that goal threat. And he's the only one who looks like he really goes out there to get a goal. Martial never convinces you. It never looks like he really wants to go anywhere where there might be a tackle to get on the end of something.
Martial's always been like, I've seen him live,
Anthony just looks like he wants to take a shot every time he gets on the ball. Whether there's a shot on or not, he's just going to take a shot. And yeah,
are you disappointed with Anthony?
In terms of his link up, yeah, because from everything I've seen of Anthony before he came to United, the thing I liked about him the most was his link up, his combination play, and just haven't seen enough of it or much of it. So yeah, I am a bit disappointed. But the good thing is he's looking sharper now than he did when he scored those 3 goals in his first 3 games.
Yeah,
he looks a lot more fitter and sharper. He's got a bit of that pace that suddenly went missing coming back. Yeah, so hopefully he integrates and just get better. But the main thing is you can just see it's building something.
It's development, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, every week they're getting better.
I did quick. I mean, obviously January windows open. What's needed for United? Quick one. Striker. Obviously, they said any deals they do will potentially be.
I think it's obvious that what they want a right back and they want a striker. They've made that clear all along. Now I got a feeling the right back one might be shelved because Wan-Bissaka is decent. So I think they might look into it right at the end of the window. If there is a deal for Dumfries or something, they may, and playing Wan-Bissaka might create more of a competition for his signature. Yeah. Either way, that's not maybe as essential now. And then the other one is a striker, which they clearly need, but are in the market for a permanent one. Then, the strikers they were in the long term are not available now. Yeah. Players like Osimhen and all of those, they're not available. So I think they're going down the route of, one of those Igalo type of loan signings, one of those dreaded short-term deals.
Don't tell me he's gonna come.
Partly down to the sale of the club and that, I think, because it's still caught everyone by surprise that they didn't actually end up going for Gakpo. So
yeah, I mean, obviously
yes, they're definitely on the loan market for a striker.
Ended up in Liverpool. Newcastle, I mean, dropped points. They had so many chances.
Yes,
but again, no striker, no Callum Wilson, and that's the problem.
It's the first game where you saw the lack of quality, in the sense that they've got players playing well, but when you look at that lineup, there's 2 players that you think can finish a chance off.
Yeah.
And that's Almiron because of the form he's in, and Bruno Guimaraes. If you keep them 2 away from the goal, Joe Linton, Longstaff, Wood, they're not quality players. They're not top-end players. They give you a shift, they work hard, and that's what cost them, because the chances went to those players and they snatched at their chances or they hit it halfway. In the case of Wood, every time he had a chance, he shot half-heartedly. Every time it came to Joe Linton, he just slashed at the ball. And every time it went to Longstaff, he went and hit it with power. So that lack of composure, belief in themselves, mixture of that end quality really came back to bite them. But again, another totally dominant performance against a team that is hard to tame and keep quiet, which is Leeds.
Yeah.
So, their pressing and counter pressing is just phenomenal, Newcastle's, and not enough credit goes out to how hard they really work.
And that's where the chances came from, but obviously they couldn't finish. Hopefully, I mean, I think Callum Wilson's back. He was on the bench. He'll probably be fit for the game against Arsenal.
And it's another feisty game. I mean, quite a few times it looked like it might boil over. And Leeds done really well to hang in there. They showed a different side. Wednesday with some really good saves. So
makes it interesting for the next game, isn't it? It spices up really well.
Yeah, it feels like a lot of the games are going to be bigger now because of the fact that some of those teams that we were expecting to compete or were always looking from outside on the outside and had invested a lot of money, they're
Yeah,
now actually looking like they're going to perform. So, games like against Aston Villa are now difficult games because you
yeah,
got
Emery.
another, serial winner,
Yeah,
tactical and experienced manager there. You got, so games just look like it's a lot tougher now because the league has just become a lot more closely contested.
mm.
Nottingham Forest now, all the players are starting to mesh in.
Well,
They're
a
competing.
lot of the
You're looking
right
at,
players are playing.
yeah, you're looking at teams, that are starting to, Fulham, modern brand of football,
Yeah,
competing against them. And you look at them, the games they've lost. A lot of them have been late goals like City last minute, United last minute. Certainly against United, they were the better team.
but it's not like they were underperforming. They were well within a chance to win.
And so that's what I mean. So I think a lot of games actually, for me anyway, feel like it's harder than it seems on paper. As much as this month has got a lot of the top fixtures, it makes it more intriguing because it's a squad game now. It's more down to the squad. It's more down to how much you trust your players. It's more down to how much your players feel like they're part of the team and,
Yeah,
and feel the trust of the manager because ultimately you might play the strongest lineup against the big boys, but you can't really take too much of a risk against
because
these other teams because
yeah.
it's just so tight. Brentford aren't going away, and there's loads of
Oh,
teams that
Bradford obviously Tony's out. I think
yeah, that's gonna have big impact.
that's
But
massive. That's
but
massive.
but what I mean is there's teams that play a brand of football where they're just gonna go at it. They're not gonna be afraid.
Listen,
And you're seeing that the teams that play that pragmatic style are the teams struggling.
yeah, yeah. I mean, we're gonna love it because it sets up for an amazing week of football for us. So,
Yeah.
but talking of obviously players performing, I mean, what Fowles, I think whatever his name is, he's been performing for Leicester, but I mean, what a horrendous 5 odd minutes. I mean, those 2 goals. I mean, talk about assisting the opposition.
Yeah, I think that's the occasion, the Anfield effect.
Oh man.
I really do feel that's the Anfield effect because even before he conceded that first goal, um, Amati done a rash clearance when the keeper called for it, and he just ignored it and gave a corner away,
Yeah.
and went on like he couldn't hear it, and it's like clearly he could hear it, but it's like he wanted to be a hero, and
Listen,
then you see what is he doing for that first
listen,
goal?
that you can hear Ward so loud. You can hear Ward so loud that we heard on the TV
No,
screen.
but it's not about whether you can hear it or not, but you also can tell when he's a good defender.
Yeah.
He had his body shape right. He can kind of see and feel the player around him. So when he's going there, he can actually tell the guy ain't on him. There's no one's made that run, But he wanted to be a hero and smash that ball with the 2 feet off the floor.
I do.
He didn't want to do a standard.
I do. I do. Is that David Luiz in disguise?
In more ways than one, yeah.
David Luiz in disguise.
In more ways than one. It's not just the hairstyle and looks, And even the style of defending, is very David Luiz. I was going to say that when I first saw him at the start of the season, that
Listen,
have an uncanny resemblance.
It's actually perfect because David Luiz do a similar thing where go 5 good games where he's in a good run, it's looking solid, and then bam, red card or penalty or something.
Well, it depends on how he handles this because he struggled after that. He struggled, and Even though he didn't make individual, he was at fault for a lot of the other chances that Nunes had in the second half because he's keeping everyone off. He started sweeping and dropping back and not staying in line with the Marty that he's just keeping everyone on all the time. So, yeah.
But I mean, Liverpool
again, another unconvincing win.
Yeah, it didn't look convincing. No, it didn't. But
even though they create chances, it's like when you're creating chances and playing at that tempo, you don't expect to score. Like it's strange because from literally saying they're the most clinical team, them and Real Madrid, you know.
Yeah, we did say that, yeah.
Now you're seeing the complete opposite. They're like the most rushed team when it comes to finishing off chances. They rush everything. It's like young players learning the game. Just there's zero composure there. So yeah, interesting. But as long as they're playing that system, this is the Liverpool you're gonna get.
Yeah.
It's a boxing match. And because they got the better tools, better players, then most of the time, and they're a bit more braver than the opposition, then most of the time they'll come out on top. But they're gonna have a nosebleed at the end of every game.
And a heart attack for their fans, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like I said, exciting for us. That ain't gonna change. And the thing is, things can change because January's around the corner, and teams are gonna make signings. I really do think Premiership teams are gonna splash the cash. They're like the only league that has money in the whole league amongst the teams. So a lot of Europe's looking to cash in on the Premier League. So I have a feeling there's going to be signings, and a lot of those signings could change the way we feel about things. If Liverpool get a dictating midfield, that will change their game a lot. That will allow them to control games better. Right now, you see it every game. That's the second game in a row where a lot of 50-50 battles, Liverpool lost them. This against the team that just lost 3 years.
What's happened to the form of Fabinho and
it just looks like all of them, their legs are gone. I mean, it's an intense style, it's an intense demand. They've gone literally close to 2 to 3 perfect seasons in a row. You go around, they lost the title by 1 point, then they won it, then they lose it again by 1 or 2 points. It's 3 seasons of literally going for nearly every title going. That's 3 seasons of intensity, Those players have dropped off. The age is starting to catch up with some of them, maybe injuries, maybe motivation. But that midfield definitely needs a reinvigoration, and you can't cover it up and just keep getting loads of amazing attacking talents. Yeah, you're going to still be relevant. You're still going to win more than you lose, but you will lose.
Yeah. But I mean, they're right back in the mix now. They're right. You wouldn't have said that like 4 or 5 games ago, but they're right in there now. What, 28 points being played?
Unless they buy a midfielder who has legs or can control the game, I don't think they're back in the mix. Playing that brand of football,
they're not in there for the top 4?
Yeah, they're in there for the top 4, but again, it's going to be more down to other teams choking because they're not playing a convincing brand of football.
And talking of not playing a convincing brand of football, let's move to White Hart Lane. I mean, 10th game where they got behind, and this time it was too much for them. And Unai Emery, who hasn't lost a game against Tottenham, got another win.
Yeah, well, this is what Unai Emery has brought to Aston Villa, where he's brought a winning mentality. They're not afraid, and he's brought tactics into it where they can make slight adjustments and they can definitely attacking in certain zones and certain areas, and it brought that European approach to it. But the thing with Emery is it's all about what they're gonna do. It's not totally about stopping the opposition. It's all about what they're gonna do, and you see that. I thought they played a really clever game. They out Tottenham, out Spurs.
Yeah.
You know, let's be honest. Most of them they waited. You can see they were overcommitting because they knew that's what Tottenham want. They forced Song to come deep and become the playmaker from deep positions because they don't have the creativity of the players with the confidence to get the ball into Harry Kane. Harry Kane looked like the playing for England, as in he seemed not interested, jogging around. That energy wasn't there in him. Quite a lot of the players that you bank on giving their all just looked off the pace, like just not interested. And yeah, ultimately, Aston Villa were the team that were playing positive.
But I mean, it was helped by a diabolical error from Hugo Lloris. We've been calling out
But
so many times. It's just like again,
but it's been coming in the
yeah, it was
sense
coming.
that
It was coming.
even even the shot from Douglas Luiz, let's be honest, any other day we say what a ridiculous shot, 40 yards out, straight shot. But that shows the mindset of Aston Villa that they were the team that were pushing the game. They were the team that was believing that I want to make something happen. And
Yeah.
Spurs, you can just tell that first half was so underwhelming from both teams. But even then, at least Aston Villa were trying to play with a bit of a spark. You know, they weren't really that creative.
But I do,
They
even after,
played with a bit of a tempo, like they want to get something, which Spurs weren't even doing.
yeah,
Then the second half comes and slow start. You know, you can tell Tottenham tried to do that thing of get physical, really do that second half, and they couldn't do it because
they were
Aston
ready
Villa
for it.
matched up to the physicality. Then what happens? The crowd turns on them, and you could just feel everything happening where the crowd's turning on the Spurs players and the team, and Aston Villa are just getting more and more confident. And that shot shows how confident they were.
But it's not even that. Like they
The
went 1-0 up.
positivity they were
They
playing with.
went 1-0 up. Even then, they were the better team. They were the team that looked like they're gonna get the second. They
They
get the
looked
second.
sharper.
Yeah. Even after getting the second, they looked like the team that was gonna get the third, and so on and so forth.
But
Tottenham.
I think that's how you know Emery's a brave manager. He likes his team to play brave. They're always looking to attack. They're never afraid to be a bit direct. And yeah, they got the rewards because they were the braver team. They were the more committed team.
What do you
And
make
they're
of the
definitely the
fans
more positive.
booing the Spurs players off, and the team off? I mean, do you think they're turning on Conte? Do you think they're losing?
I don't think they're turning on Conte. They are turning on. I mean, there was a lot of players that just didn't put a shift in. You know, a lot of players looked subpar today, and you know they just were at the races today. I can't remember many players I could say. Maybe Song was trying a bit too hard, lost the ball a lot of times because he's trying to take on the whole team.
I mean,
But
I felt sorry for Brian
that's
Gill.
more just
He
the
was
brand
bullied
of
off.
football.
Yeah.
It just feels like as soon as Kulusevski was injured, that was it. They just suddenly felt like, oh my gosh, we can't create anything. and and it shows how much a big player Betancourt has become for them. Because he really does take the ball under pressure. He really does pass the ball in tight areas.
And
He
he beats
does
that
link
pace.
up the midfield and the attack a lot, and that allows Højbjerg to make those runs and kind of do the more physical side of things because he's got someone else. And Bissouma tried taking on that role, but you can just say it's rusty.
Yeah.
That full-on rhythm and confidence ain't there, and he plays at a slower tempo, which obviously Bentenko moves the game forward a bit more. It's more 1-2 touch. Just gets the tempo going a bit more. So yeah, they definitely missed Kulusevski and Betancourt today.
And Bentancur can play that ball into Harry Kane straight away a lot of the time. And
That's the thing. Harry Kane did not get any service.
Nothing.
I think I saw some stat where he had at halftime, every player other than Watkins had more touches than him. Even the goalkeepers.
I mean, I think it was a 50.
I think
I
I
think
think he
15
only had like
minute or something. He had 0
8
touches.
touches, was it, or 10
Yeah.
touches?
He had 0 touches at 15th minute or something. I saw, and I was like, "Wow, what is going on?" That showed you. It's it. It's it. But what does it do for the top 4 contention? I mean, they seem to be completely dropping off recently. What
I
that's
don't know. I think there's this habit of over analyzing, overreacting to every result.
Mm,
They're gonna be there. I mean, what we said about last week about Conte hasn't changed. He's a winning mentality manager.
mm.
They're gonna still win more than they lose.
Find a way, yeah.
Yeah, they'll still get there. They'll still be around, but they're going to a difficult moment. Are they the team that's favorite to get there? No, they're not. Simply because if you look at the way the league is this season, there are the teams that aren't afraid to bust the game, aren't afraid to play attacking brand of football. They're the teams that have been successful. You look at City, Arsenal, Newcastle, even Man United, even Liverpool. They want to take the game to you. They
I mean,
want to attack. They want to
you can
look
use
to play
Fulham as an
progressive
example as
football.
well, because they
Fulham,
don't sit
even
back.
now Aston Villa. You look at Brighton.
Brentford.
Even Brentford. But those teams that play that pragmatic style, the West Hams, the Tottenhams, they're now starting to struggle. And I don't know. One thing is I don't buy this thing that Conte is saying about lack of creative players. That's a joke. You got one of the most creative number 9s in the world game at the moment in Kane. Because the guy's a playmaker. He's the perfect fourth line you could ever get. You got Song, amazing creative player. Bissouma, we saw him. He can create, dominate a game, dictate a game.
Yeah.
You have creative players. It's the brand of football.
But is there a question mark to Son though? Because this season, apart from one game, you can say he hasn't really shown up.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, he hasn't performed.
Actually, I can't remember.
He hasn't performed, but probably it could be a hangover from getting the golden boot. You don't know. It could be either way, the competition that they got in, which was with Carlson, is injured now. So it's kind of unfortunate in that sense. I just think when you read up and do your background research, Tottenham were the one team that had done a full-on pre-season style camp.
Yeah.
They made them do running, non-stop running, and
yeah,
mileage and
puking up and everything.
Yeah, they done their pre-season program again. Yeah, so they done their pre-season program again, and those players look leggy. So I do think that's been a miscalculation, and they've got something wrong there because they definitely look like one of the least fresh teams out of all the teams. And you look at the others, there are other teams that are just have got it right. And like we said, the best example is those players coming back from the World Cup. They might have had 10 days or 2 weeks off, but they've come straight back in and started games, and they still are fitter than those who took 3 weeks off and came back to a preseason regime. So I think that might maybe playing an effect. Like I said, preseason works when it's one game a week. But when it's loads of matches, and having that build up of fatigue through intensive fitness, it don't work. You end up making the players more leggy than building their fitness.
Yeah, definitely.
So or condition. So let's see.
Yeah, it's something to keep an eye on. Let's move on. I mean, Chelsea seemed like maybe after the 2-0 win against Bournemouth, Chelsea could potentially put on a run, but obviously again another hurdle. Nottingham Forest.
Again, that's another thing. Like if you watch the game against Bournemouth, the second half they struggled. Bournemouth were the better team. They were more committed. They're flying in. They were the ones creating chances, and Chelsea towards the end were panicking. They'll comfortably panic at the beginning, but towards the end, you could tell that Bournemouth was dominating the game, pinning them back. So I don't know. I mean, I've watched quite a few of their games, and every time I have to be highly critical of Potter's substitutions. I mean, every time he makes a sub, it just feels like he weakens the team, or you can see at that moment in time, it's the wrong decision, wrong player to take off. It's probably one of the players having more influence on the game, and he takes them off. So he's definitely feeling the pressure. You see, I mean, he's talking more with his assistant than instructing anything. You can tell he's trying to figure things out.
Yeah.
And they're the team that, like, no exaggeration, they're in trouble. I said it before we resumed. So enough to be really concerned about the direction they're going, whether they actually know what they're doing. Tottenham, they don't concern me. I mean, their identity is their identity. Through mentality, they'll still win games eventually. But Chelsea does, and what worried me more was Potter's post-game interviews. I mean, what are you on about when you say well-earned point, hard-earned point, we didn't deserve to win the game? I'm thinking, any top manager, they're only honest when their team is flying around top form.
Yeah.
Just to keep their players on edge, they might say, I'm disappointed with the performance, we should have done better. But that's when they're already winning. That's when the players are already fully in line with the manager. They know who the boss is. Those managers can then go on a bit hard.
Maybe a bit too honest.
That's the only mode he has. But he hasn't won over the players. He needs to learn how to talk winning mentality.
Well, I mean,
how many times have we seen Arteta, Ten Hag, not Pep as much, but Klopp and all, they're completely biased towards their team, and their team could play rubbish, and at the end say, we should have won the game, we deserve to win.
Arteta will come out with stats of 30 crosses.
Yeah, but how many times? But what is that doing? Really, what they're doing is they're convincing their team of the winning mentality, that we were the better team, we're still going in the right direction. What are the Chelsea players meant to think when the manager is saying, basically, hard-earned point, lucky to get a point, deserve to lose? Like, you aren't creating a winning culture. Sometimes you have to lie. It's part of being an elite manager. You got to have a winning mentality where you see things in a biased, blinded way, which is the way of success, the way of winning mentality. And his honesty scares me. I think this, as much as we're hoping and thinking is a good opponent, I'm really starting to question this one.
So, I mean, it's really concerning. It's really concerning if you look at his last 5 games, because out of his last 5 games, he's won 1, drawn 1, and lost 3. So, I mean,
but it's not about the results. Forget the results.
They're not even playing good.
The biggest indicator is the performances. The performances are a joke. Today, I mean, you look at this one, it's like they got a fluky goal, and then they thought they switched off. For the rest of the game, it's like they played without any heart. And that's the thing that worries me, is there's no bite in that team, there's no physicality. There's so many things on a tactical and technical level that are actually worse than the results show, in terms of how far back they drop deep. You got the whole team at times, hanging on the whole back lines, practically on the penalty spot. That's always a bad sign. This is what relegated teams do. That's what the worst teams in the division do. The way they don't put a tackle in, they don't fight, they play without heart, headless chickens. They just dribble all day, run into players. There's no cohesion. Every player playing individually. There's so many things that is wrong with the performances. Even against Bournemouth, I think everyone just thought because of that first half, and they weren't great in that first half. Bournemouth were that bad, and their manager even called his team out on it, saying that's the worst he's seen them play. It wasn't Chelsea that game that made it a win, a comfortable win. It was Bournemouth, and I thought, yeah, not enough people are really watching it if they think this Chelsea team ain't in serious trouble.
Well, I mean, what do they need? They've gone and signed the left-sided centre back, Bernard.
It always starts with a good manager, and unfortunately, the manager ain't managing that club. You see the signings they're going for, and they're getting top names.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it don't matter how good a player is. If he's not your signing, you're not gonna. But I do think there's too many senior players in that squad for Potter's style to be accepted, and so if they are getting all these young new players into the club, that's good. But they have to get rid of some of these senior guys because Potter, you can tell, is struggling to manage those senior players. And
is there a clash?
He wants to coach. He wants to build a team. That's why he's playing Zakaria now all of a sudden. He wants players that want to work with him, that he can coach and improve. You know, and that's his style of management. But yeah, looks like they're gonna try and outbid anyone and everyone for every player. And if they win some, they lose some.
So basically,
I don't know if the construction is gonna make any sense because it seems like they're gonna let Aston do the negotiations for a player, and then they'll take him, and then they'll let.
That's what reporters say. Apparently, they want to go and get Mudryk now.
Yeah, so that's. I mean, they've stolen who's it? Andre Santos from Newcastle, and I mean that's a signing. From what I've seen, what I've read about him, he looks a player ready-made for the Prem. So, they're getting talented players, but I just feel like, okay, maybe that will be better fit for Potter. But I can't see them moving on from some of those big players. I can't see them moving on from Sterling and
it was going to take Aubameyang and
yeah. So at the moment, that the club is in transition. It needs a lot of surgery. The biggest problem is the manager isn't the guy running the club.
Do you still think Todd Bowley has a lot of influence with regards to the signing, and that's potentially the problem as well?
Yeah. I don't know if they're going for players, and they obviously want to stay relevant and they want to stay important. They're trying to buy their way out of it. But the thing was, when it was done under Abramovich, it always felt like they knew what player they were going for. Whether if it was a director of football, they knew what they're doing. Whether Avram Grant or Marina Granovskaya or Emanello, whoever, it felt like they knew what they're doing when they're constructing a team. This just feels like they're going for every wonder kid, every potential superstar, anyone that anyone else is going for. So you just wonder, is there a plan to this? Or are they just trying to get all these talented players and say, here you go? Well, not every talented player works and meshes together well. I mean, you've got to think about the balance, the characters, like you said, like Arteta did. Looking at the background, the checks, and I'm not sure. I don't know how.
They've almost spent about 350 million.
A technical director in now.
Yeah, they've spent 350 odd million already. So financial fair play will be on their back. So they can't really keep on buying and buying. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean the other thing is, I think part of it is that whole big deal was made out of Abramovich insisting that this X amount of 1 billion is just for transfers, and it feels like Todd Bowley is just trying to get rid of that commitment as soon as possible by just bidding for everyone and anyone. And let's get to that 1 billion mark and get that commitment off our head as quickly as possible.
Get it done over 2 transfer windows.
Doesn't it feel like that though? Doesn't it feel like Fofana, pay 85 million, no problem. Anything ridiculous, let's go for it.
How much you want? Just ask, I'll sign it.
Yeah, it does feel like that. Don't know if it's true, but it definitely feels like there's a bit of a
I mean, I mean,
mad approach.
they sit in eighth now. Even Fulham are in front of them. 1 point ahead of Brighton. Doesn't look good. Doesn't look great for them.
Yeah,
And they
because at
got
the end of the day, if you got a manager that wants to coach his team and likes to have time on the training ground, and they look this poor after he's had the World Cup break,
yeah.
then what that shows you is he's really struggling with his senior players because they were the ones who were off to the World Cup break. And you look at the players that perform slightly, but it's those French players that look more confident, more on it, you know.
I did. They got some tough fixtures coming up, and they got what? They got Chelsea, Fulham away. They got Liverpool coming up.
Well, they got a lot of acid tests now, but the thing that worries me more is one, performances aren't that good, but the most worrying thing is the lack of fight and the lack of heart. There is lack of leash. Even today, it felt like Thiago Silva got too much for him. He was staring, he's looking, and he's thinking,
But
"Can I
listen,
be?"
how much can a 30-year-old? He was. I don't know. For me, he was just like he was the one that was putting in a tackle and
Yeah,
doing.
towards
He
the end
looked
of
like
the
the
game, he
only
looked fed
one.
up.
Looked like the only one that was actually, you know what, wanted to win, cared, or you know.
But he also looked fed up towards the end of that game. Like he can't get the reaction out of the players, and there was so many soft tackles, so many guys not going in for headers, and you just think, yeah, it's they look like they're gonna get worse before they get better.
Yeah, I think, but
But
they're
yeah, you
probably gonna
can't
have
rule it
to.
out. And ultimately, good players, a
Yeah,
decent manager. But the thing that worries me most is no matter what, Chelsea has always been ruthless and they've always been about winning.
yeah.
And now you got a manager who talks anything but winning.
But I mean, if they don't get top four, do you reckon he gets the sack?
100%. I think I think there's pressure on that club to keep their value. That's the thing with having
American owners, isn't it?
yeah, well, investment thingy companies taking over and conglomerate of investors. It's all about the value of the club. It's all about the assets. It's all about how much you're worth on the market. And so, yeah, it's
Yeah,
going to
I
be,
mean,
yeah.
good point for Forrest. They finally seem to have got that balance between defense and attack and got the right players playing. I mean, we called out for Mangala, Worrell, Bowley. They're all playing now. Lodi's back. Obviously, he had some injury problems. So it seems
Yeah, I
like they
mean,
got that perfect balance. And a great goal from Aurora, Sergio Aurora.
yeah, it's a great finish. Well finished. I mean,
Touch,
not
bam.
enough to be said about that. That was a tough goal to score for a right back. Chest it down, bringing it like that, and finishing like that was good. But I just feel like when you look at it, they should have won that game, but they drew. And little things like that always tell you, okay, when you should win, then win. Do you get it? When you should win and you draw, it always feels like something got away from you there. But yeah, the way they played, the mentality, the way they took the game to Chelsea, the random behind, the energy. I mean, that Morgan Gibbs White shot to hit down the side of the ball. What a shot!
Wow.
So yeah, I like the direction they're going. Obviously, they still struggle to.
Big game next. I do. They got Southampton away.
Yeah, and I think those type of teams or games suit them because they struggle against teams that can play possession football because they don't retain the ball well. So then they really don't see the ball enough. So when those opportunities for the quick breaks happen, it's difficult because the opposition ain't ever unorganized because they're playing possession football. They're still organized, so they can kind of read or counter the fast breaks that first want to do. So I think the way Southampton play, it may work to their advantage. Again, let's see.
Quick one before we up. Moyes in danger of getting sacked. That I mean, lost the last 5, just dropping down.
I think they'll give him January. I think they'll give him January. But
would you? I mean, if you want to get a new manager, would you want him to have the transfer window so he can bring in a player or two for himself?
not if you're West Ham. Because at the end of the day, you bring in a manager, then you're under pressure definitely to sign players. And we know West Ham, even though they have been spending, they got a bit of that Daniel Levy mentality where they're always looking for a bargain, isn't it? They're looking for a guy who's available. They're not looking for. They're not 100% supporting. It's not their manager calling all the shots. It's they're looking at what the market gives, and then they go
they're still
for
too
players.
strong to go down, isn't it? They're still too strong to go down, I reckon.
I'm not worried about them going down under Moyes, but they do need their defenders back. They're a bit like Spurs. So much of Moyes' game it's a game plan. The way they want to win is be difficult and disruptive and take what the opposition give you. Well, those game plans never work if you're conceding every time.
Yeah.
So they really need to get Agard and Zuma back. And
well, Agard is back on bench. He was back on the bench, so hopefully he'll probably be soon starting.
Yeah. So I think their type of teams, they score and win by having a game plan, and it all depends on how you stifle the opposition, and that's how their attacking template is based on that. So, yeah, they'll improve once their defenders are back. I don't know how long Zuma is out for, but I think he's their key man. They need to get back.
Yeah. On that note, Adil, thank you for today. For those of you watching, thank you for watching. Please make sure you like, share, subscribe, and let us know your thoughts and views of the video. And thank you for watching.